Sure.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Lina Monteverde. I'm a local real estate agent here in the greater Houston area in Texas, the United States. And I am super excited today because I have with me my friend Paula, who is in real estate in Dubai, joining me. Welcome, Paula.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I am doing amazing, Paula. I'm super excited to have you here today. Paula, I think today's just going to be a conversation about our paths, what we do. And I think number one question we'll need to answer here is how did we meet? Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was in probably what, 2006, 2005? I
Why
can't
did you
remember.
have to say the year?
Oh.
Yes,
We
2000,
met.
2007.
Oh, 2007. Okay. See, I feel younger. So, I mean, I believe we met in HSBC. We both were working for HSBC. We were part of an HR management program whereby they sent us to Bricketwood. Interestingly, every time people tell me, "How do you still remember Bricketwood?" I go like, "Yeah, because it's like a whole area that's owned by HSBC Group." And I think that's where we met. We met on a 7-week program to do a management course, which I believe was a life-changing program,
Oh,
honestly.
100%. No, it was amazing. And then the how we all bonded through that experience because we were all pretty much like in our 20s. And can you
Yes.
imagine and we were the 7 week program, I think at the end we were maybe 40 people that ended up there for the entire 7 weeks. And we were all in our 20s. We would do these trainings that were the entire day, like from 8 to 5 during the week, and then we would travel on the weekends.
That's so
So,
true. And it's travel that I remember the most. Those train trips.
and then the bond was created naturally. And last year I had a property for sale in Panama that was a high ticket item there. And I just grabbed the phone and started calling everybody from the brick and wood days. And I loved it because the conversation there was just a flow, a natural flow. Nobody was like, "Oh, hi," it was just, "Hey, Lena, how have you been?" And we just took off like time never had passed. It was really amazing. I really enjoyed that.
So true. And I like that because I also meet a couple of them around here in Dubai.
Oh,
We
really?
each other when we were in Dubai, but now that I do, obviously the conversations are, like you said, they're very different because we've shared this experience back then in the UK, and obviously it's so different.
Oh, yes. So how did you end up from banking in real estate? How did that happen for you?
I was thinking about this, and I sometimes say it's pure coincidence, but I don't really think it was that. I've always been someone who did things when I'm challenged, and I believe it was a person who challenged me to join the real estate world and who was actually my first boss. That was the reason I decided, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try. Why not? There's nothing to lose.
How did he
So
challenge you?
so it was a very funny story because I left banking to do entrepreneurship. I set up a new business, which was like it was still in financial banking and financial systems because it was a comparison website for all financial products around, the Gulf region. So, be it the UAE, Saudi, Kuwait, and other multiple locations. And then kind of progressed over 3 years. And after that, I decided that I wanted to join back into the corporate world because I had sold it to a VC fund and kind of exited. And I was taking a break. I got contacted by this real estate development company. And I met the managing director then, which is the person I'm referring to. And at that time, obviously, the role was very different than what I do right now because it was more into operations and business process re-engineering and things like that. And then he's like, after like probably a half an hour conversation, he's like, I think I have the perfect role for you, but only if you feel that you can do it, which I'm not sure. And obviously at that time, like,
And that
excuse me,
was
what
it.
do you mean? I can do anything? I had that ego where like I can do anything. And as much as I left that interview feeling, I wouldn't say angry, but like, how dare he, challenge me that way and like super upset. But I actually joined in immediately when I got offered the job. I was like, that's it. I want to work with this person because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot. And real estate is just another product, honestly. I think HSBC experience or the financial banking experience, I have to say, kind of gives you that proper base where you learn how to build processes, how to work with systems, how to sell a product, how to create revenue, how to brand something. And obviously, once you move into real estate, you're really applying those same logic, but obviously to a different level of product as well as more dynamic in a much more dynamic industry, I have to say.
I agree with you. And, it wasn't until last night when I was thinking about this interview where I was like, how did what I did in banking transfer to real estate? And I really had to think about it. And for a while there, I was like, is there anything similar? But it's 100% what you're saying because I was in investment banking, so I was private banking. And I was like, well, what did I do? I'm like, well, I would help the clients kind of think through their strategy help them understand the risk of what they were going to do and then allocate the assets. And then I was like, what do I do right now? I'm like, it's exactly the same thing. It's all about what's the strategy, help them understand the risk, and then allocate the assets. And I was like, oh, wow, like I never thought of it that way, but it definitely translates 100%. And like you said, it's much more dynamic. Real estate has much more moving parts, and I feel that it's also much more emotional.
Yes,
I don't know if you
definitely.
feel it that way.
Especially, I mean, it's emotional when you deal with end users. I probably deal less with end users, so I don't get those emotions. But I agree with you. It has the emotions because obviously it's their homes. It's what you're gonna finally give
Exactly.
them to live in, right? So we always say it's investments, but it's not just investments. You're
And even
investing in.
if they're buying it as an investment property, there's still emotion behind that. And even the way they choose it, sometimes you have to guide them, it's like, no, this is the strategy and the numbers make sense this way. That house won't work just because it's the one that you would like to live in. That doesn't mean that, that's the right one for this strategy.
That's what's gonna get you the best returns.
So
Very
what do
true.
you specialize in, Paula?
So I look after business development in general, and I know business development is just a very, very generic word, but I would say it's taking a project from an empty land, to actually becoming a design and a reality that a person lives in or a space that people live in. So I overlook joint development, I overlook land acquisition, I overlook even the design process as to what's the product that we're going to build on those lands. So obviously and when I say that, because I work a lot with the brokers and the sales team to
Okay.
make sure that we get the input of what the market requires into that design process. And obviously taking it all the way till it's an actual product that is sellable. Now you have to understand, in Dubai, we are so much more focused on off plan. Majority of the sales happens on paper. People don't see any physical apartments or homes or condos before at least a 3 4 year period from the actual investment that they make.
Yeah, it's a pre-sale, right? It's a
Yes,
pre-sale period.
yes.
Well, it's interesting but you do that is mainly for buildings.
Yes, buildings and as well as homes, so villas. There's always the terminology as well between Dubai and the US, and I get that all the time. Obviously, we call them apartments, you call them condos. We call them villas and townhouses. You call them, I believe, houses. So yeah, I do both communities, master plans, as well as vertical residences.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. That's another thing we have in common right now because last year I started my way into pretty much what you're doing, but at a smaller scale. So I help developers, new developers actually, people are just starting in this business go same from the land from the ground up.
Perfect.
So it's in emerging areas of Houston, and they're usually building or single families or duplexes. And it's the same thing, but you're talking about a team, or my team is smaller, but it's the same thing. It's helping them acquire the land, for them to explain to them, in what areas they can build what is going on, what do people like, do they not like, what are the finishes, the materials, and then, letting them know how much they'll be able to sell the product for, and then helping them with the sale.
And I would think you're the perfect person for this because you actually deal with clients. So you even have the intelligence firsthand. I have to depend on talking to a lot of our sales teams. I do meet with customers as well, to kind of get inputs at times. I even like during certain conversations with brokers, I hear out, what they're selling, what's happening, like what's moving, what's not moving, what people like, what they hate. And I try to kind of take that. Obviously, you always have to filter what's kind of exaggerated
Exactly.
feedback, but the idea is to kind of create something that is unique, very special, and feels personal to the customer or the end user at the end of the day. Because, even when we say we sell to investors, I always believe investment at the end of the day is only successful if the end user loves it. Because if they're going to rent it, it's only going to drive a higher rental if it's actually a proper home that they can live in and pay a little, you know what I mean, a little bit more.
Exactly. 100%.
So I always build for end users, regardless of the fact that in Dubai we sell mainly to investors and not to end users.
No, it definitely has to go to the end user, and that's one of the reasons why I still like to do we still do open houses over here. So, I don't know if you guys have them over there. Well, you're
So
pretty
we do. So don't forget,
okay.
you still have a market for ready, especially
Okay.
when it comes to end users. I mean, today, if you're a family and you want to move, you decided that, okay, you no longer want to rent, especially that Dubai is such a transient market, but with time, you're starting to see a lot more of the expats wanting to live here for much longer periods. So, after renting for a couple of years, typically a family would, a younger family, I would say, would start thinking, okay, instead of renting, and renting is quite expensive, it makes more sense that I buy something of my own. When they take that decision, most of the time they'll go for ready property and not for off plan. Now, obviously, the very well planned younger families, they typically would go in at a much early stage for off plan and know that in 3 years they're going to move into their,
They're gonna
home.
have their property.
But not majority are like that. So you still have a market for ready properties. So we have open houses for ready properties. We even do open houses for off plan because we sometimes have certain projects will have like show apartments. So we'll do an open house, invite people to see the show apartment or the show home in order for them to get a feel of what they're gonna get in a couple of years once the full product comes.
Exactly. So your market is very similar to what a Miami one is over here in the United States. It's more the Florida market. In Houston, we do more single family, townhouses, duplexes. We do have apartments, but it's not like a big part of the market. So my investors, what they do is they build single families or they build duplexes. And the advantage that the duplexes have is that people can live in one side and then they can rent the other one. So that
Yeah,
helps them pay the mortgage.
yeah,
And to me, it's very important. I like to do the open houses once in a while in person, just because I get that feedback, like you're saying, it's from the end user. So to me, it's not just data that I'm analyzing and actually talking to them, and I'm asking them a variety of questions so I can get the most information. So then I can provide that to my investors.
true, true, true,
And
true.
it's really useful when it comes to construction. Some of them start like, oh, we should do carpet here, and I'm like, no, sir, you do not want carpet. People don't want carpets nowadays. Or what about this material for the kitchen? I'm like, well, everybody's wanting this, and what do they like? Oh, the closets are a big thing. Are you sure? But I'm like, yes. Focus on the closet, focus on these spaces. And I get all that information because I'm there talking to the end user.
That's very true, very true.
What else can we talk about right now?
Well, you tell me about your shift in your career. I
Oh,
told you what
my
move
career
from banking to real estate.
to real estate. Mine, I guess I was challenged, but by life. I wasn't challenged by a specific person. I was in banking and then I got married and I moved out of the country. And back then, the funny thing is that there was HSBC in all Central America with the exception of Guatemala. And that was the country where I moved to for a year. So when I got there, I was like, for real? Uh, I didn't work for that year. And then I moved to the United States. And then funny thing is that I think my daughter was maybe 6 months old when I got an email from someone in HSBC saying, we got your resume from HSBC Panama. We're opening the Guatemala office. Do you want to join? And I
Were you?
was like, I don't live there anymore, and I have a 6 month old, and thank you very much for thinking of me. I'm like, you're a little bit late.
Uh,
So then I was living in the United States. I became a stay-at-home mom. I didn't work pretty much for 8 years. So then
uh,
my story is that when I did decide to go back to work, I didn't get anything that would pay me enough to afford
yeah,
a living.
yeah,
It was a low income jobs, and I needed something that one would allow me to pay for my expenses, and number two, something that would give me the flexibility to be with my daughters if they needed me or when they needed me. So I don't know, it was during the COVID days, and I don't know what got into me. And I just woke up one day saying, I think real estate is the way to go. I didn't
yeah. Do you
know
love
what I
it?
was get what?
Do you love it?
I do. I
Okay.
do now. I will tell you. I remember, I think I actually called you or
Yeah.
we had a like text message or something. And I was like, how did you get into this? Do you like it? What are your thoughts? Should I get into it? Um, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I will confess, you see things on TV or you assume that they're a certain way. And you got more into the development part of it. There was a lot of analysis. I just got into the regular traditional real estate. And if I could go back in time and give myself some advice, it would 100% be just listen to your instinct or your gut or whatever you want to call it. Because from day one, I remember thinking, investors is the thing for you. Like I would just be drawn to it or the non-traditional real estate because here people tend to tell you, when you start in real estate, oh, just call your friends for business or just farm the area around where you live, try to get clients there and just stay in that little area. And to me, that was just not very exciting. I think I do have that challenge part of me like you where it's like okay, I'm done, like I learned how to do this, it's like now what, like
Yeah.
I just my mind, I need more moving parts, and that was just not enough for me. So I think that's a part where I wasn't passionate about it. I would do my job, I would do a good job, but I wasn't passionate about it. And then things started shifting. I stopped listening to the people around me. And that's how I ended up with developers. And just at first, I started helping them with the land part. And that has a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that you need to understand about buying land. So to me, that was life-changing. I really enjoy that. I enjoy providing my investors with all the data that they need. I love going to the construction sites. I've had some clients that told me recently, it's like, well, we're buying you some pink boots. I'm like, okay, you know me, but not very well. I
Yeah,
do want
exactly.
the boots. It is in my Christmas list. Do not buy them pink. Please do not buy them pink. But I do want the boots and I want the helmet and I'm going in there. I love it. I just really love it. So again, it's definitely my passion. And I still do the traditional part. Have no issue with that. I like it. I do my investors also, and that is something that I really enjoy. And hopefully 2026, let's see if we start building something.
Yes. Excellent. That's great. That's great. I mean, it's exciting. Obviously, for me, it's very exciting, and this is why I enjoy, honestly, real estate. Just a week ago, I met an ex-colleague as well in HSBC, but he worked in Dubai. And he was telling me, you're one of very few who moved to real estate. Do you really enjoy it? And I said, I love it. He says, why? And I said, because every day is so different than the previous day. Like
Oh,
every
yeah.
day, the challenges that come to you is like they're so different that you're gonna have to learn a new skill to move on to the next day. So it's like constant learning, and I personally love it. I love that about real estate.
I remember that when I recently started in real estate, I met someone that was a real estate agent, and we were at the dog park. We were, there with our dogs. And she said, every transaction is so different. And I said, I'm like, no, like that doesn't make sense. Because here in Texas, we have standard documents.
Yeah.
So we really just have specific documents that we use and we just fill in the blanks. So it's like, how can it be different? Like there's no way, like it's the same paper. And she's like, and Lina, it's different. Every transaction is different. And now, yes, I can tell you that every transaction is 100% different. And especially in my case, because it's land. So then, and it's in emerging areas, it's in neighborhoods that were from the 40s, the 50s, and the land has passed from one hand to the other. And it's all kinds of surprises that sometimes show up there. I one time have, when they pulled title, it ended up like 16 people needed to sign the document. And I was like,
Oh,
oh wow. And then, someone took care of it and there was just one person at the end that had to, had to sign the document. And I was like, oh wow. But then there was another time where the land at a certain point was put by mistake in another document, like selling it to someone else. And then towards the end of the transaction, they found a document where they had corrected that.
oh wow.
I was like, all the different things that happen. And I just told my clients, I'm like, just relax, things happen, and we'll figure it out.
I would agree on the every transaction is different from a different perspective as well. I'm sure you come across, and I mean, I don't know actually in the US, but in Dubai, you come across different nationalities as well. So when you're dealing with different nationalities, honestly, the transaction is completely different because the expectation, the culture plays a big role. What they want out of the property, what is important to them is very different than, the other type of client. So obviously your conversation has to flow in a completely different way. And I see it every day. I see it through the brokers that I also deal with in terms of how they come to me with pitching my product, for example, to me sometimes, and you can tell it's because of the audiences or the customers that they deal with, depending on the niche that they have. That's the focus that they go with, and I believe that every day is very different than the previous day, and every transaction is very different than the previous transaction.
No, what you're saying, I'm sure you deal with more nationalities than I do because over here it's more like I deal with a lot is Mexico. And it's, yeah, what you're saying, what they want out of the property of their investment is completely different. So the way you have to approach them and even the same transaction is different from someone that's from outside the country than inside the country. The resources that you need to have available for them are a little bit different for each one.
I mean, I will only tell you one thing. In Dubai, we have 200 plus nationalities. So you can imagine. Now tell me something. Obviously, since you've been a stay-at-home mom for you said 8 years, right? Till you decided to
Yes,
start
eight
again.
years.
How did you build your network? Because you've been away from the business world for such a long time.
Well, first I started, it was calling the people that I knew, which necessarily was not very helpful because I live in an area with good school districts. So people would stay till the kids graduate, right? Unless life happened. Um, so that was one way. And then another way, it was just getting out there. Girl, I did everything. I door knocked. I did cold calling. I did open houses. And eventually it was through referrals, and then people started referring me. So a lot of my business has really come from referrals, and it's people that I've gotten to know through even just running clubs or cycling clubs because I do well, I'm not doing it right now, but for a few years I did do triathlons, the smaller ones, the sprints or the
Remember.
Olympic ones. Yeah, so it's people that I met through that that really helped. And then the call calling and the open houses. And then it just all started going through referrals. So a lot of my business right now is clients that I already have or past clients or people that know me just from, like I said, from a running club or a cycling club.
Which I believe trust is quite a big thing, and I see it a lot as well in Dubai. Service definitely is great in Dubai, but can be improved. But it's very it's not very often that you come across people that really will go out of their way to provide you a service, full end to end kind of a thing. So when you do find people like that, you tend to refer them to a lot of friends, and I see it in my day-to-day life, not just in real estate. It could be a contractor that I'm working with at my home. It could be the gardener. It could be, you know what I mean, the
Oh,
person
yeah.
selling me a certain product, and suddenly I'll start telling my friends, "Don't buy this from anyone else but this person." Suddenly, everybody's buying cakes from a specific bakery because Paula referred them to it. But yeah, I mean.
100%. And
I feel the
communication.
collaboration and the trust element is quite important to grow your business, whether, be it through clients or even business development, which is more B2B, I would say. Because especially I've worked a lot with brokers. So, people tell me, how do you have such strong relationships? And my answer is I've always been not there for them just to sell my product, but I've been there for them whenever they had issues with their clients that are linked with my product. So once I provided them that support and was able to take off the burden of handling their client off their shoulder, and they were still getting positive feedback from their clients that they were in
Exactly.
touch with someone from the development side that took care of it. Obviously, to them that automatically kind of opened up more doors as to, yes, we want to work with this person, we want to sell the projects that she works on, because it's not just about selling. She will also give us that after sales eventually. And one of my initial start in real estate was international business development, so I had to open up new markets for real estate developers in Dubai.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of the toughest markets that I worked on was China. And I still remember, I had to travel for 27 days in order to ensure that I bring one big real estate partnership on board to start selling Dubai real estate. And it was one of the most challenging, yet the most exciting, and honestly, one of the things that I would say have shaped me into who I am today in the real estate world, because I had to learn a lot of patience. I had to learn how to negotiate, when to let go, when to push, and when to kind of stand up for what I feel is right or wrong. But I'm personally super proud of it, because I've seen the effect that it has on the country today, not just that one developer that I worked with, but on the entire country, because of the activities that I initiated at that time. And obviously, a lot more developers then went in after me in order to kind of replicate the model and amplify what was done initially.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome, Paula.
that's where we are today. So, what's your
Yeah.
next plans? What do you want to do? How do you want to kind of grow your career? Where do you see yourself in whether real estate or non-real estate in the next 5 years?
I just had a very interesting conversation with ChatGPT the other day about it, so I can tell you all about
You
it.
do the, you do those chats? Do you ask ChatGPT what you want to do?
No, I don't ask ChatGPT what to do. What I want to do, what I do is I will sit down and I'll be like, this is what I see myself doing. What are your thoughts? How can we make this happen? And then the other day it gave me the full, in 2026 you do this, in 2027 you do this, in 2028. And I'm like, I like how you think because I come up with the big picture.
Yeah.
But to me, then I start getting frustrated because it's like I'm here, but I want this, and then like I have to do I make this big thing in my head. So ChatGPT just organizes it for me.
And gives
So
you an
in the
plan.
next 5 years, I would really One is helping people develop and then having a team that would be in charge of the sales and then getting the buyers. So right now, what I'm trying to form is making sure that I have buyers for what my investors are developing. And then I take care of also the sales, obviously. But in 2026, then that team has to start growing so they can take care of that so I can focus on the development part.
Excellent, excellent. That's great.
And I tell my girls that they have to help, but they're not very interested. One wants
Are
to
they
be
not
a
interested in
doctor.
real estate?
No one wants to study literature. The other one wants to be a doctor. So
Oh, wow. Well, Noah's too young, so I really can't tell yet. But I do like the fact that he likes to build. So every time in school, they'll send me like he's building Burj Khalifa or building, some other tower. So I always sometimes say, well, that's the real estate side of me.
where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, Paula? Because you recently started your own thing, right?
Yes, so I'm a partner in a business, and obviously, we're doing a lot of developments now. Not necessarily that we own the land, so we do like joint ventures where the land comes in from a landowner and we develop on that land. I do also branded residences, so I'm obviously connected with brands, so I support as well in brands. I've been consulting a few developers as well on their sales strategy to support them in selling their projects as well. So I do that as well. So yeah, there's been a lot of moving parts. I would say where I see myself in 5 years, I would have a much bigger team that can support me in doing all of this that I've just mentioned, but allowing me to do what I enjoy, which is designing projects and obviously putting all the storytelling part of the project and selling it to people. I don't necessarily enjoy, the building the processes and systems. I'm very good at it naturally because of obviously my banking days. But I really enjoy it? I don't. So I want to have the teams that can take off those parts of, the business and let me do what I enjoy doing. It's just like when I talk to our designer, I always tell her, I need you to come in and do this interview. She's like, Paula, I love designing. I'm an architect. Just let me do my thing. You go do the interviews, you handle the media. Let me be. So she's very clear, like about what she wants in life. Obviously, I've not reached that stage where I can draw that very hard line to say, sorry, I can't do this because I don't enjoy it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm on the
that's
same boat. It's like we have different hats and we just have to put them on whenever they're needed.
yeah, that's so true. But I feel
And that's funny. Like I would focus on the development part. I'm all about the creative part and developing, and I would leave the sales to other people.
so when I say sales, I don't necessarily mean the actual sales. I've always enjoyed helping the sales team create that storytelling because I believe
That's
that
that's me. Yeah.
when you go to projects, a lot of people you ask them, why should I buy this project? They'll tell you, well, because it has a pool and it has this and it has that
But
and
they
it's
all have them. They all have them.
like, but it's not different than any other of the 1700 projects that I've seen in the last couple of years. But then comes this one salesperson who says, well, it's all about wellness. The minute you step in, you will feel the space is much bigger because it's a double height ceiling. But then, you have certain amenities, for example, a padded, air conditioned, naturally lit staircase. So even when, you have to exit on emergency, you're still going through that experience. But not only that, even though it's a residential building, but you walk into the corridor and it's naturally lit, and at night it has a circadian lighting. And he's like giving you that story, and I'm like, that's it, I want to buy a unit myself. So I enjoy creating, and this is why I say I enjoy designing the project, but also creating the story behind the project. So people are passionate about what they're selling. And I truly believe that, during HSBC days, at a certain point in my 10-year career with HSBC, I was managing the advance proposition, if you remember, which is the mid-segment proposition. And at that time, obviously, we had to cross-sell multiple products, and a lot of people would tell me, how do you manage to sell your credit cards? I used to always tell them, You know what? Selling an HSBC credit card is no rocket science because HSBC alone, the minute you say HSBC, people want to hold the credit card. The
Yeah,
tougher part
exactly.
is to actually sell them an insurance policy or to sell them an investment, right? Where you need to take their money and not give them money. So I think this is the part that I enjoy doing. How do you create brands beyond through storytellings as well? And you know that's where I see myself probably. I don't know. I hope in 5 years. I don't know if I'll be able to successfully reach that stage in 5 years, but eventually that's what I would love to be doing only. I had what do you call, like, a career, not a trainer, she's like a career coach. Okay, at a certain point in my career, this was probably like 2 years ago. And I think it was the time where I was still in the corporate world and I wanted to kind of venture into doing something of my own. And I wasn't very sure about it. So I wanted someone to kind of talk me through it, right? Career coaches actually don't tell you what to do. They only kind of talk
No,
you
they
through it.
listen and
And then
guide you.
and then they tell you, listen, you're already saying it yourself. This is what you need to be doing. Okay. So, and I
Yeah.
remember she said, what legacy do you want to leave behind? And I said, my legacy is, be it when I worked in banking or even in every organization that I've worked in real estate, I've always wanted to leave my name behind. I wanted people to come back and ask, what did Paula do? And people say, yes, we know what Paula did in that organization. And I feel brand is the same thing, honestly. Building a brand is, what legacy do you want to leave behind, and how do you want people to always remember you by it? And obviously, you have all these big brands. Recently I saw an ad. Anyone who says just do it, immediately you think of Nike, right? I'm loving it. You think
Yeah.
of McDonald's and so on. I think that's what any brand should
And they say
aspire
it's a lot of
to,
what
to
you
reach, right?
want
And it's
people
not
to
easy. It's
feel.
definitely not easy.
And they say it has a lot to do also with what you want people to feel.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll have
True.
to have a conversation on that one. First a private one and then a public one. I think that would be awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. This was
Well,
great.
Paula, this was awesome. We definitely have to do it again.
Definitely. I'm always ready for these type of conversations.
That's awesome. Well, thank you everybody that listened to or saw this today. And if you have any questions or anything that you want us to cover next time, just comment it below and let us know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lina. Thanks for having me here. Take care.